So here's your 15-second warning, folks. Oh, ooh, turn that off. That's a nasty echo coming through.
Yeah, you gotta turn your sound off first.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call this regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine to order at 5 o'clock on January 24th, 2024 in the council chambers at the Municipal Administration Center. Roll call this evening. Deputy Mayor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor Pranger.
Present.
Councillor Steinoff Gray.
Present.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
I'd like to acknowledge our staff that's present here this evening and welcome our Deputy Clerk, Tracy Guy, in standing in good stead here. There's also 4 members in the public gallery. Welcome this evening. Deputy Mayor, please.
We'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. As a public service organization, we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture, and are committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis.
Amendments, additions, deletions to or from the agenda. I understand that we have a couple of amendments. Councillor Stewart, do you have one this evening?
Thank you. I'd like to add one motion, please.
Could you tell us what the motion is, or would you like the clerk? Do you have the copy there? Or does the clerk have the copy?
Actually, Tracy's got a copy. Do you want to read it, Tracy? Thank you.
Okay, the motion is that council instructs staff to write a letter to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry opposing the directive mandating conservative authorities to not alter fees related to planning, development, and permitting for the 2023 calendar year. And further, that a copy of this letter be forwarded to the MPP.
If I might make a slight amendment, it's likely conservation authorities, not conservative authorities. Because we're talking about the Saugeen Valley Conservation, so there
It does.
yeah, there is a move by Councillor Stewart that this be added to the agenda. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pranger, all in favor? And that's carried. Second addition to the agenda, Councillor Steinoff Gray, please.
I would like to pass a motion to amend the January 29th budget meeting to run from 8 till 4:30, preferably end of business.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Kennedy, all in favor of adding that motion to the agenda? Anyone opposed? And that also is carried. Are you buying lunch? So we'll have the discussion when we get to the motion, so. All right, I'd like to remind council to disclose any pecuniary interest now or as it arises through the meeting and the general nature thereof. Seeing none, we have the adoption of minutes from regular and special meetings of council. We need a mover and seconder that the minutes of the council meetings held on January 10th, 24 be adopted as printed, moved by Councillors Stewart and Kavanaugh. Any discussion? All in favor? They're carried. matters for discussion and direction. We begin this evening with a conversation about the broader conversation about equity, diversity, and inclusion. Our council is facing the conversation regarding the placement of the Secord Monument. There has been some valued and unwanted conversation, both that have been distributed through our municipality. But this council is committed to recognizing and appreciating the views of all members of our community. So I would like to defer to our Deputy Mayor Clark. She is going to offer a slightly amended motion. There was a recommendation from staff that was presented in your council, but some discussion prior to the meeting has offered a viable alternative to that motion. So Deputy Mayor, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. If I could read the motion. Council directs staff to hire an external consultant to provide advice on the process and assist in the facilitation of a public engagement process regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion to assist council in the decision-making related to the Secord Monument, and that council approve the budget for external support for this advice and assistance with the process for the amount not to exceed 15,000 from the contingency fund.
So you've heard the motion, or is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hinchberger. Discussion. So the discussion focuses entirely on, are we going to hire the external consultant? It's not about the placement. It's not about what could be a very deep conversation we're going to discuss about the need for an external consultant to facilitate the conversation. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Having had the opportunity to read both the report and the recommendation, I first want to commend Lori Fiozzi and thank you for you and your staff for putting together that report and bringing back a thoughtful recommendation. What perhaps struck me as most significant when I read through that report was the fact that this is so much larger than a discussion purely about the monument itself. It's a discussion which fundamentally encompasses equity, diversity, and perhaps most importantly and significantly, that of inclusion within our municipality. The recommendation about having an external consultant to help facilitate for me is key, because for me, it really isn't a motion where I'm interested in necessarily having policies or procedures developed out of this. Whilst I appreciate that may be a byproduct, my concern always with equity, diversity, and inclusion is that it's so dynamic. Policies and procedures are somewhat static, and really and truly they propel those in power at that time and their agendas. And history has shown us that that policies and procedures in of itself can be oppressive in its nature. What I'm far more interested in is public engagement on the issue, particularly that of inclusivity, and what the public want to see in terms of for this municipality. When I speak of for this municipality and inclusivity, it also, for me, founds a foundation of everything that we do. It encompasses not only race, gender, sexual orientation, but accessibility. When we're looking at Parks and Recs plans, are they accessible? When we're looking at the programs this municipality offers, it's an important conversation which a facilitator that is trained in EDI can help lead us and garner the information that we need, because based upon what comes out of that, we will be able to make a determination about the Secord Monument. But in addition to that, we'll be able to make a determination about how we commemorate historic facts and people and the manner in which we do it. The most important thing for me is that we are able to have that engagement with a cross-section of the demographic that we represent. It's quite clear that if we always tell a story from the eyes of the hunter, the lion will always be the prey. It's important for us to understand and get the different perspectives and how our residents in this municipality views inclusivity, because that will be the foundation of how we go forward not just with commemorating past and historic events, but with every aspect of our strategic planning. If we view it as important and a foundation in which we grow, then we must use this opportunity. All of us here at this table have a very limited time as council members. And for me, the question I asked myself when I read this report is, what's the legacy that I wish to leave? I hope for me it's that we continue to do all that we can to make this municipality as inclusive and as accessible as possible. This is a pivotal and turning point for us to allow this public conversation to happen. One that has been long overdue and perhaps became most noticeable in the last 72 hours, that this is a conversation that is long overdue. For those who have looked at it as simply a transactional, this is going to be a discussion about the monument and it's going to cost this amount, I think the larger picture has been missed. The monument is going to be a byproduct of what we determine, but the larger and more important conversation is how we as a municipality see equity, diversity, and inclusivity. I hope that as we go forward, we'll understand the value of that, and that will help us make the decisions and the challenging decisions, but only once we've had those challenging conversations. For me, the importance of having a facilitator is having someone that's trained that can help with the foundation of the education piece to help us understand the value of others and perhaps let us have a bit of introspection where we can sympathize if we can't even empathize with what others are going through. So I hope that today my fellow councillors will join in supporting this motion, because it really is the opportunity to be that change that we want to be. And when I think, what is that decision that was pivotal? It's one of those for me where I think, let's be on the right side of history by supporting this motion.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through your mayor. That's almost an impossible act to follow. Several months ago in this matter, normally I speak off the cuff, but I want to make sure my message gets across here. Several months ago in this matter, I was of the opinion that council should just make a decision on this and wasn't convinced of the value of an intermediate step. I was prepared to make a decision. My opinion on that has, however, changed. The misrepresentation of the report prepared by staff, the recommendation within it, and what the council ask actually is that has occurred recently on social media, combined with the ensuing activity, has convinced me more than ever that this is required. There are too many emotions running wild, and frankly, too many people borrowing opinions from others and expressing them as facts and fears about what might or might not happen. My ask for those who would become involved in this process were twofold. Challenge what you think you know, and where and from whom you obtained this knowledge, unquote, from, quote, unquote, and have the courage to recognize that your lived experience and that of your ancestors doesn't reflect the lived experience of others or their ancestors. So I wholeheartedly support Deputy Mayor Clark's motion.
Yeah, Nicole is going to reestablish it on our screen there. While we're doing, I'm just looking at our manager of strategic initiatives, and I'm wondering if it would be appropriate for you to speak to this. We've had a couple of councillors speak to this, but there will be some people at home who have not read the gist of the report. And I'm wondering, like, if you're wanting to take an opportunity just to draw out some of those highlights, Ms. Fiozzi, then this might be a good opportunity while the motion is on the screen. Council has opportunity to start the thinking process.
Thanks, through you, Mayor Craig. I think it's said in the report, and I think that I feel like it's a hard act to follow after after Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Hinchberger. But I do want to state that we did do consultation with municipalities. I have a resource group that I am in contact with who do this kind of work across Canada. We did key informant interviews with some of the municipalities, and really the biggest message we heard when doing this kind of consultation around any sort of issues around inclusion is to do it with sensitivity, to do it with education and awareness, and to do it purposefully. And I think that's part of what, you know, the recommendation was around the external facilitator. I will say, I know everyone's throwing around the amount 15,000 as being a lot. It is actually, when talking to municipalities, it's actually on the low side. So I will put that out there. But I do say like organizations or municipalities like Kitchener, Wilmot, Kingston, Windsor, there's all kinds of things that are happening around monuments. And the staff there really recommended that we hire somebody external to help guide us through this process, give us advice on this process, do it sensitively, have somebody who has a real strong track record, being able to manage crowds, but also to make people feel safe, and the process to make people feel safe. And so that was the recommendation, was really to hire a consultant to help us figure out a process that makes this safe, but also has all voices heard. And so I just want to mention that we did do some extensive research around that, talking to municipalities, and also hearing some of the horror stories of consultations and what has gone wrong, and do not want to repeat that in the municipality of Kincardine. I think this is really an opportunity for us to create and build a community we all want to live in, and that where everyone feels safe and feels a part and belongs. And so I do think this is a critical process, a critical time for us to do this well and to do it sensibly and inclusively.
Thank you, Ms. Fielzy. Any other council comments, please? Councillor Stewart?
I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but I don't think 15,000 is going to even come close. This is too much in a gray area for me. I like to defer this and let you come back with some sort of understanding. A facilitator trying to do this kind of work with 12,000 people, I don't know how he's going to do it. Is he going to or she only going to work with us? Are they going to work with special interest groups? Like, I'd like to know a little more of the detail around what this facilitator is expected to do and come back. And there's no rush. I mean, we can, you know, come back in a couple of weeks with some more details, because we have gone away from, you know, what the original motion was tonight. And I knew that the original motion was incorrect for what we wanted to discuss, but we also need to understand exactly what this facilitator is going to do for the group, because it could end up as a policy, and that's totally different. And so we need to understand exactly, and I like it worked out a little more, what a facilitator's, you know, what are their goals, what are their aims and everything else, because it's hard to introduce this to 12,000 people. We're talking about the whole community, I hope. We're not just talking about what, us 9 people here and a few interest groups. So I would defer this thing and let the staff come back with a little more completed report about what's going to exactly take place and what sort of type of facilitator are you looking for? Thank you.
Just to confirm that, would you like to offer a motion to defer?
Yeah, I would like to offer a motion to defer it and let the group or the staff come back with a more completed report on what the facilitator's aims and goals will be. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that motion to defer? Seeing none, we will continue. Any other comments from council? Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just based off what Councillor Stewart has said, one thing I can say for sure is that I am completely aligned with what my fellow councillors and our manager, Laurie Fiose, has said. And I too was in the same kind of mindset as Mike earlier on. And as I've watched this unravel, it's becoming more and more important that this discussion happens. This is a really important, and to quote my peers, long overdue discussion. And there's so much more at play and what this means for our community. So if you don't think it's enough, I'm willing to do a friendly amendment where we don't necessarily have the cap, but otherwise I would be comfortable voting on this.
Did I just hear you'd like to make a friendly amendment? Further discussion from councillors? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the, Counselor Stewart.
Recorded vote, please.
So we have a motion on the floor that is on the screen for your viewing. And we've been asked for a recorded vote, and our deputy clerk will manage that, and it starts with the counselor who has requested so, and then goes to his left around and ends with myself. So Ms. Guy, go ahead. Hubby, I read the motion one more time. So it was moved by Deputy Mayor Clark and seconded by Councillor Hinchberger that council direct staff to hire an external consultants perhaps, to provide advice on the process and assistance in the facilitation of a public engagement process regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion, to assist council in its decision-making related to the Secord Monument, and that council approve the budget for external support for this advice and assistance, approve the budget for external support for this advice and assistance with the process for an amount not to exceed 15,000 from the contingency fund. Ms. Guy, please.
Counselor Stewart,
No.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Steinhoff Gray,
Yes.
Counselor Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor Hinchberger,
Yes.
and Counselor Prenger,
Yes.
and Mayor Craig.
Yes. So the motion has been passed. Cleaning services contract award, parks and facilities. We need a mover and seconder. The council award the contract for cleaning services of various municipal facilities to Clean Krista Services, Inc. in the amount of $174,555 for a 3-year term. Moved by councillors Kavanaugh and Steinhoff Gray. Any discussion? Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Just like you said, you mentioned earlier that people who may be watching not have all the information in front of them. Director of Community Service, just to confirm that you pointed out in your report, this should introduce a cost savings to the municipality over what's being done presently. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. So showing fiscal responsibility.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Okay, is this where the additions to the agenda go in?
We'll just have one first. and then We'll do the acting clerk first,
No.
and then we'll go into the two.
Oh, okay. Acting clerk, we need a mover and seconder that the chief administrative officer, Jeline Bell Chamber Glazier, be appointed acting clerk when it's necessary for the deputy clerk to leave the meeting for the purpose of taking minutes for the January 24th, 2024 closed and open meetings. Moved by councillors Prenger and Blackwell. Is there any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so this is the first addition to the agenda. It was moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Prenger, that council instructs staff to write a letter to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry opposing the directive mandating conservation authorities to not alter fees related to planning, development, and permitting for the 2023 calendar year to the 2024 calendar year. And further, that a copy of this letter be forwarded to the MPP. Discussion, Councillor Prenger, Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, through your chair. This is a situation that all the members of in Sauget Valley and every other conservation authority in Ontario are dealing with. There has been a freeze, as we all know. So therefore, I actually think that some other conservation authorities might not have handled it. I don't know how they've handled it, but ours did quite a good job. Our staff at Saugeen Valley managed to find ways to adjust their budget so that there is no increase to our levies, to their member municipality levies. So our budget will not increase because of this year. However, that is not sustainable. So what we're asking is that our staff, along with, I believe, most of the member municipalities have agreed that they'll probably do this, write this letter so that we can express our displeasure with the situation and talk about the risks that it causes, right? So that they have some understanding of what we're dealing with. Because I don't think it's like management and then boots on the ground. They don't understand what we're trying to do, right? Anyway, so if our staff needs some help, some support writing this, there is another municipality that's already written one. We can provide an example. I think they've said they have or will circulate it. Did I miss it? Is it on this agenda? We already have it. Oh, okay,
Yep.
we have it, so the staff will have access to it. So I think there's enough support there. And I have full confidence that our staff can draft something that is very meaningful. Thank you.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Well done, my fellow council member. Yeah, this was a large thing that came to us on Thursday, so we couldn't put it in prior. But it was a $300,000 hit that we took personally. What our board is trying to do over at Saugeen is to self-fund sort of that whole planning permitting thing. And we're hoping to do it over 2 years, 300,000, this year, 300,000. So there's a savings to all the municipalities if we were successful of around $600,000. So it was a $300,000 hit and the staff actually took it. Very interesting. The staff actually reduced some services. They're not hiring one individual and they're going to hold off on getting a truck until next year. Plus, out of the reserves, they took another 90,000. So we were pleasantly pleased at the board level because we thought we'd get another allocation. So a lot of credit to the staff and everything. So we won't see any increase at all other than what we already agreed to. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So our second addendum to the agenda is a motion by Councillor Steinhoff Gray, moved by Councillor Steinhoff Gray and seconded by Councillor Kennedy, that we extend the budget meeting January 29th from 9 until 4:30 p.m. rather than from 9 till 2. You're okay with? 8:30?
The stores don't actually open.
8:30 to 4:30? Councillor Steinhoff Gray, you get dibs on this. You
9 to 4:30.
9 to 4:30. Okay. Rather than ending it at 2 as earlier proposed. Moved by Councillor Steinhoff Gray, second by Councillor Kennedy. Discussion. Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
I just was recommending this. I know I personally have taken a few days off to do the recent Roma conference, which I actually think was an excellent use of time and there's no complaints there. But respecting that many of us still have full-time employment outside of council, I would like to do the best I can to get as much as I can done through that full business day as opposed to a partial business day, to just to limit disruption, and then hopefully anything else can be addressed through secondary meetings. But it's just acknowledging the time of my peers around the table as well as my own.
Councillor Kennedy? Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you very much. And well, I respect and I'm all for the idea of doing a lock-in to get this budget done and get things going. As the primary caregiver parent, I have to be available to collect my kids after school from 2:30 to say 3:30. So I'm more than happy to be here from 8 a.m. till 2:30 and then come back from 3:30 till midnight if that's what it takes. However, I need that hour to take care of my family.
Deputy Mayor, please.
I was just gonna, I perhaps piggyback on what Councillor Kavanaugh said, that I don't know what the childcare arrangements are for people around this table. So whilst I appreciate that, I wonder if it would be an option to potentially have a break and then return if that is easier for people at this table. Like, I appreciate you want to get it done, but I know Councillor Kavanaugh has to go, and I don't know what anyone else's childcare arrangements are.
Councillor Stewart, you had your hand up, please?
Yes, just a friendly amendment. I like pepperoni on my pizza, thank you.
Any other productive conversation, please?
I'll be hungry.
Yes. Any other conversation? Councillor Kennedy, yes.
Sure, just maybe from conversations around the corner, could we do 9 to 2 and 4 till 7? Is that a number? Wrap it up that way? We're 1 hour break, 1 or 2? I'm just throwing it out.
We're throwing out options here, so you can propose as an appropriate consider. Go ahead.
Thanks, through you, Mayor. I do know that we've got a couple of other meetings scheduled in the evening hours for the municipality, correct? So we've got
Monday, yeah.
on Monday
Strategic plan.
at 6, I think. Yeah, so we do have some already scheduled.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
The motion really came out of the fact that every single budget meeting has required me to take a day off work. So I was looking for some flexibility. If I'm hearing there's flexibility on a different day, not to disrupt the normal hours of business, I do not want to relinquish my vote, which means I have no choice but to make myself available. So I would just respectfully ask that if that is an accommodation willing to be made, I can let it go for today.
So am I hearing like 9:30, 9 till 2:30, 9 to 2:30, and then reconvene at 3:30 till we start our next meeting at 3:30 till 6. Nine to 2:30, 3:30 to 6. Okay, that'll take you home, give you 45 minutes to eat, shower, snooze, and make your way back again. And pepperoni, yes. Is there any further discussion about that multi-amended motion? Okay, all in concurrence, consensus with that pathway? So on Monday, January 29th, 9 till 2:30, 3:30 till 6. All right, thank you. All right, consideration of bylaws, 6.3A. We need a mover and seconder. The council committee appointment 2023 amendment 3 bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, numbered as bylaw number 2024-10. Moved by councillors Kavanaugh and Blackwell. This is regarding Councillor Hinchberger's appointment to the Heritage Committee. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. And this completes community services cleaning contract acceptance. Need a mover and seconder that to award tender number CS 2023-18 cleaning contract bylaw be deemed to be read first, second, third time, finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2024-11. Moved and seconded by councillors Prenger and Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. We move into the consent agenda. Once again, items listed under the consent agenda are routine and will be passed in one bylaw unless there's a councillor that would like to have one withdrawn for consultation, conversation right now, or for further staff input in a subsequent meeting. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you. Through your mayor, I'm actually going to sneak in here. I don't want anyone removed. I just want to make a general comment that what I read today in the consent agenda or for this meeting seems to me a continuing progression, what I consider the sophistication and the detail that are put into the staff reports across the board, and I'd really like it, and I'd just like to pass that on.
Counselor Pranger, or did you have your hand up too? No, Counselor Stewart?
Well, thank you very much, and that was a very nice compliment, and I agree with it. And there's so much detail, I need to ask some questions, if you don't mind. And I have a few questions, because I think these reports are excellent. And sometimes I like to be able to sort of have you announce. So the first report I want to take a look at is 7.1 AA. That's the fourth quarter 2023 quarterly procurement report. And the chart 2, if everyone's on their computer. Contracts over 50K. Just wanted to point out, I know we're going to have another discussion during budget time. This is the County of Bruce contract, the IT, and it's a 5-year contract. Looking at the contract term, I just wanted to tell you that it's actually a 15-year contract. There's 2 automatic renewals for another 5 years and 5 years. Really, what I want to get down to, because we're still discussing where the money's going to come from, and we'll do that at budget time. But I would like to ask Jill, if you wouldn't mind doing an update around the May time period. I know that you're getting involved with it right now, but we are the pilot, so this isn't something we're sort of seeing. If you wouldn't mind giving us a report sort of around the end of May, because then we can see how it all goes. And I think for the first year or two, every 6 months would be probably a good idea to make sure, because this thing could cost us a few dollars. Thank you.
Just to that end, I had opportunity to speak with Director Kirkpatrick, IT at County of Bruce, asking for exactly the same thing as you did, Counselor. And it was his intent. I thought he was going to be here sooner than that to report, but we'll, through Jolene, we'll make sure that we get at least a couple of reports through this initial pilot year. So thank you. Yeah. Another question? Oh, do you want to speak to that too?
If I can.
Yes, you may.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Stewart, yes, we fully expect that because this is a pilot project for both organizations, it's going to require a fair amount of check-ins in order to determine whether or not it's being successful in its implementation or if we have to make adjustments. And we met with the team today. So our senior leadership team met with Bruce County staff from IT that were here this morning to walk through what we envision as the next year. So a more fulsome presentation than what council would have seen previously, but essentially the rollout of how this will progress in the first year. And part of that will be providing information and details back to staff, but also to council.
Another question, Counselor?
Anyone else want to, okay, I'll go one more time. 7.1AB, that's the corporate services fourth quarter update. And is it B? Sorry about that. What I really found interesting is actually in section, just want to make sure I have this right. It's in human resources, number 1, recruitment and selection. This raised a red flag with me, and I'm not looking for an answer, but maybe if the council wants, we might ask the HR manager to come back for a report. There was 9 positions in the last quarter that we had to search and select. That's a lot. That's almost 10% of our staff that had a turnover. I think that's high. That would raise a red flag with me because that's only in 3 months. So if the council is willing, could we sort of get a report of what happened last year in 23 with the staff? Because I find the 10% turnover is costly for us as we're recruiting constantly. So I'm not sure. I'm not looking for an answer tonight, Joe.
Counselor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Thank you. I'd just like to refer to staff for a report or commentary. 7 point, and it doesn't have to be tonight, just to be clear. 7.1 Charlie, so for communications, and then Delta motions of other municipalities, and then Charlie Township of Larder Lake support for amendment to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. clarify the definition of employer, and I would like us to potentially consider a letter of support on that item. And I would just ask for staff to provide some guidance based on that particular motion in consideration of the Supreme Court case with the Supreme Court of Canada decision on the Ontario Labor versus Sudbury City release that came out late November. I'd like to understand the implications. Thank you.
Anything else? Counselor Stewart, please.
Sorry, I guess I had a lot of time. I wasn't sleeping very well, so I basically, I want to get into, if you don't mind, 7.1 AD, and that's the fourth quarter community service quarterly report. It was a great report, and thank you very much. But I noticed that they were working on the pier and life-saving station, and they're doing, checking them. I just wanted, it's more of a comment. We temporarily, I think it was my motion, we temporarily closed those piers until the end of February. And it's nobody's fault in this room, but people are going on the piers. And, I'm not suggesting that's safe, that's unsafe totally, but I'm not sure if we should be informing our bylaw or police, and do we have the right to charge these people, because someone's going to slip into the water. So it's really just a comment. We try to do the best for the community, and sometimes the community doesn't do the best for themselves. So I just wanted to point it out. We need to identify that, tell the bylaw folks, tell the police, and let's, enforce it until the end of February. Thank you.
Anything else from the consent agenda? Okay, thank you very much. So we have acceptance of consent agenda. We need a mover and seconder that council approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda dated January 24, 2024, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Moved by councillors Inchberger and Blackwell. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, members of council, general announcements, and we begin with Councillor Pranger.
Nothing tonight.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. I think probably took my quota tonight, but sorry. We had a meeting at the King's Pearl last night, and we're thinking, and we're going to go
Excuse me,
ahead.
who is we?
Okay, I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
I was going to tell you, it was actually the Tiverton Lions and the Agriculture Society of Tiverton. And we are going to attempt, and we're going to put on a Winterfest in Tiverton. And it'll be the weekend of February 17th, 18th, and 19th. So it's the Family Day weekend. So we're starting to put the pieces together. So stay tuned. Social media will have it, but keep that weekend open. Tiverton is going to have a blast. So thank you.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you very much through you. So I wanted to share that Kincardine is hosting another coldest night of the year. That will be coming up later in February. I also wanted to draw attention to the fact that this is our last meeting before February. February is Black History Month. The Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center is presenting an afternoon of presentations and discussions on Black history and culture in Bruce County. That is happening on February 3rd from 1 till 3. I'm looking forward to that very much. Thank you. Oh, I don't know, I might be stealing this thunder from Councillor Kennedy, but I did want to mention that I saw in the news today that Dr. Murray, his wife and son have donated $250,000 to our hospital. And I think that deserves quite a lot of recognition. Yes, sorry about that.
That's why I start with different people. Every time I try and move it around to give opportunity. To Councillor Kennedy, please.
Well, that was one I had, but, I'll just add to it, like, I've had the honor of working with Dr. Murray on different committees in the past and currently, and yeah, I just, and I'll tell you, if we think that emergency room's open for many more reasons than him, I'll tell you, just the things he does in that hospital and raise money for that hospital goes above and beyond what anybody that I've ever seen in this municipality. Anytime you run into that gentleman, you should compliment him because he's an amazing young man and his family. Thank you.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
I don't think I could possibly compete with any of the announcements that have already been created tonight. Thank you.
Did you spend the last 2 or 3 days at home?
Yes. No, no, I would just like to thank, all of my fellow counselors who came with us, as well as the counselors who are at home sending us Cole's notes on things to focus on and support. We had a really, I think, successful delegation at Roma, Rural Ontario Municipalities Association, for those who don't know. And it felt I was very, humbled by the fact that we had 6 delegations in the time of 6 ministries, to really pitch the concerns of our municipality on behalf of our constituents. So thank you for the opportunity to be there.
Councillor Kavanaugh?
Thank you very much. I have 2 announcements tonight. Keep the good news rolling. First for Tiverton. The Tiverton Branding and Facade Improvement Open House is going to be Thursday, February 1st from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Whitney Crawford Center. So please pop by and discuss what you'd like to see in terms of community brand improvements. And then the other one is the Share the Love event being held at the Drop-In by the Bridge. It will be held at the Pavilion this year. It's their annual fundraiser. Tickets are on sale now. I know I will be there, so I hope to see everyone else come on out and support a good cause. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I have no announcements.
Councillor Hinchberger?
Thank you. Through your mayor, I'll follow Councillor Blackwell's lead tonight and do more than one. First would be following off her. She mentioned Bruce County Museum, I think, did you not? I'm one of them. I'd give a big shout out to Donna Meehan here is the work that the Bruce County Museum doing in newspaper archives in terms of the online historical collection is fabulous. And for anybody who's looking to further educate themselves on the history of the county, and I know when moving into my new role as a member and chair of Heritage Kincardine, it's a great place to go. The second would be, I'll just follow up on Councillor Stanoff Gray's comments about Roma. Of all the delegations, I was particularly enlightened and heartened by the ones we had with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Transportation. I can't and won't get into specifics, but related to things that are important to us, for instance, a new senior school, et cetera, in our municipality, which we all would agree is needed, and the issues surrounding traffic on Provincial Highway 21 and what it means now and in the future. So I'm very optimistic about seeing things on those 2 fronts move in the future.
And my slight extension to that is I'll be providing a report to council. You'll see it in your consent agenda next meeting to round out some of the details for there. Theo, any announcements?
Well, just a short one. March break camp registration is open and there are still some spots available. So if you or others need some assistance during the break, then please go ahead and register.
All right, thank you for those. All right, we need a mover and seconder that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of considering closed session minutes dated January 10, 24, labor relations or employee negotiations, review of municipal reorganization, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and labor relations or employee negotiations, negotiations with firefighters, and further the council return to regular open meeting upon completion. Moved by councillors Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Prenger. All in favor? That's carried. You have 5-minute bio, folks.